In this video, we are going to talk about another type of data structure known as a tuple. Now, if you remember back when we were talking about the other data types, we had the list, and it's kind of like a square. It's kind of like the boring guy that does the same thing day in, day out, does everything in a very specific order. Then you've got the dictionary. This guy looks a little bit crazier on the outside, but he's like this wealth of information once you actually ask a question, and they can look up anything, and that's why we've got this kind of crazier symbol. Now, this one, I would say, is even more boring. The tuple is, I would say, it's almost like somebody that hasn't changed in the past 20 or so years, and they have a very strange mannerism about them as well. So let's look into a tuple a little bit. So a tuple is going to be using the parentheses, a left and a right, to create that. Now, as I said, there's a very strange mannerism of them. So let's just say we have A, and we want to make a tuple with this item, okay? Now, if we're making, actually, let's first make that as a list. Let me just show you that, all right? So if we do a type of A, it came back as a list. We type A, we've got a list. You know, we can make a dictionary as well. So we can make like D is equal to key, comma, value. Oh, sorry. All right. We have one item within there. Now, when it comes to this for the tuple, it's a little bit stranger. So let's just say C is equal to this item. Okay, now it looks like you probably created a tuple, but what happens when you press C and look at it? How come we didn't get the parentheses around that? Well, what's going on here? It came back as a string. So something to keep in mind. If you are creating a tuple with only one element or one object inside, you have to include this comma. Now we actually have a tuple. Now, to talk about a tuple a little bit more, unlike a list, a tuple is immutable, which means it cannot be mutated once you have something that's listed inside of there. So let's do like we did with the other ones. Let's do a directory of C. Now, what do you notice in here? Again, let's forget about all of them that have the double underscores. We only have count and index. So let's create this again. Let's create something of this, that, this, other. All right, go ahead and type that in. And then let's do a C dot count, and we're going to look for this. Okay, just like the list, it comes back and we can actually count how many times that occurs in there. Index, kind of the same thing. We can look up and see index, which index that you can find it at. In this case, just like the list, it's going to return the lowest number, 0 being the element that we can find with it. So this is, as I said, probably the most boring type of structure that can hold multiple objects within it. It's immutable, which means it cannot be changed, except if the item inside is a data structure that can be modified. So let's recreate. Actually, let's name D again, okay? Let me make this. And we're going to have the first one as a list item, comma, this. And then we're going to have, let's just say, an integer, okay? So now we have D. We can see that it is a tuple, and inside we do have a list. Now, if we look at D0, we can see the elements within that list. And we can also do something interesting like D.0.pop. And now we can modify the mutable data type that can be found within the tuple. So a little bit different than the other ones. Again, you've got that weird structure where you have to put a comma if you have a single element in there. Otherwise, it creates a string. And that's really about it when it comes to a tuple. Now, it depends on the way that you code and the way other people code on which one of these data types you may use. You know, I tend to use lists, and I very, very rarely will use a tuple. It's just not something that I'll use for programming very often. So in the next video, we're going to talk about one other item, and that is known as a set. So I will see you in the next video.